just, can you start from, it was not allowing me to start there before this was saved. Hi everyone, I'm so sorry for the interruption. We had some technical difficulties. You guys could not hear us properly, so we have to switch the machines. I'm very sorry about the confusion. So Dr. Cohen will take it where you started after the break, Dr. Cohen.
When was that?
It was when you switched to the computer, when you started talking about the mutation.
Okay. Once again, the mutation.
Take two, mutation, take two.
Everybody repeat after me the name of the mutation. D6146.
D6146. That's the name of the mutation, guys.
Actually, I made a mistake. It's 4G. So it's D614G, which makes you much vulnerable for a serious infection if you have that mutation. And there's going to be plenty of mutations. That's part of life. And can everybody hear me? Because I'm not seeing any feedback.
I can see people watching, so yeah.
Okay. So we talked for weeks on what's most important, and the most important thing is to educate your immune system. Because if it's confronted with viral particles that the immune system doesn't recognize, we get much more vulnerable for a serious infection. So how do we educate it? Most of you know this by heart, and I'm just quickly go over this again, that we educate it by what marks the immune system is calcium bicarbonate, not carbonate, but bicarbonate. It's carried into the gut by ingestion, and then from the gut it's taken by vitamin D to the blood, and from the blood it's carried by vitamin F, and then when confronted with the virus, the immune system recognizes and attacks the virus. If it doesn't recognize it, it ignores it. And that's what the original program was. Then we did viral defense, which works on the AC2 receptor site, which is in many, many tissues, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, the small intestine. And those receptor sites is where serious infections happen if we're vulnerable. So how do we prevent from doing this? By protecting ourselves is by going into our system and re-educating the nervous system and the immune system. Remember, the nervous system carries the information and transports it around our bodies. Okay. So what kind of formulas have I come up with over the last 25 years? One that's still popular and people are still ordering it is Formula 2. I created that when we had a system way back in the 1980s. We had some bad flus, and we needed something to protect people, so when they got confronted with the flu, they would continue to work. And one of the patients, I think, who's still interested in Formula 2 and still takes it, discovered that 47 people in her office, when she took Formula 2, 46 came down with the flu. She, who was taking Formula 2, lasted and never got sick, and has been taking it for 25 years since. that is an echinacea blend, but an echinacea form of echinacea which contained other herbs, like golden seal, 2 kinds of echinacea. It also contained elderberry. And that's remained very popular up until this time, and also protects us when we have damage from previous infections or chemical exposures. Many people today are much more vulnerable to viral infections and epidemic infections because so many of us, no matter how careful we are, have been damaged by abrasive chemicals that we've been exposed to. And each year we add on 2,000 to 3,000 more. Very rarely is any of them removed. Another one that's been extremely popular is one we designed called glia. Now, glia is an important part of the hippocampus of the temporal lobe. Glia works by the NRF2-ARE pathway by regulating our health. It makes us more adaptive and also resistant to infection. Glia is probably more important than our neurons. In the old days, and when I first started studying neurology, everybody talked about the neurons and how in our hippocampus we were growing new neurons. So in a sense, we're learning now that we're capable of creating a new person. We're constantly capable of growing and changing. And now it's felt that the glia cells, which we thought only cleaned up the debris after something was torn apart, actually brought on resilience. And about 4 years ago, in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, they did a study on depression. And they found that when people were depressed, they were lacking glia cells. And when glia cells were introduced, the depression went away. So what does that mean? That means how many people you know and how many maybe yourself or your family are so exhausted trying to survive and trying to handle all the things. And now we have such unknown that the body starts to shut down to conserve energy. So if you wanted to stay alive, the first thing you'd want is your heart to stay alive or your liver to stay alive or your kidneys to stay alive, particularly your lungs. So which parts of our bodies are the most vulnerable? That's also our brain. So glia cells, when I was growing up, we were told that don't drink beer because it'll kill your brain cells. And once they're dead, they're dead. And as you age, you have less and less brain cells. None of that's true. We make cells our whole life, especially if you feed it correctly. So we made a formula using the endocannabinoid system, using different herbs that had cannabinoids, and we're able to stimulate the body to grow more glia cells. Not only were people able to refresh themselves and recuperate at night, when they took the glia, within a month to 3 months, they were literally becoming younger and more resilient. Okay, so that was the glia cells. Many times I prescribe it to people, especially when they're walking around and they feel like they're catching everything that they have. When I find that people can't resist to the atmosphere around them. When people are scared to go out of the house because they're convinced they're going to get a virus that'll destroy them and destroy their families. Or if they were poisoned, they'll lose their ability to recuperate. So sometimes it's just a few drops and for a period of time, but it's generally used to rejuvenate and make ourselves more resilient. Another one that I was reminded by a colleague of mine that helped me put together some formulas, that awakening. Now, years, I think for 12 years, I taught medicine making up in Big Sur from 1 to 4 times a year. We take something out of nature and we take it through the alchemical fields to make it into a profound medicine. And we'd have a group of people, and to make alchemical, deep herbal medicine, you have to have a minimum of 10 people together. And you go through the 10 fields, the 4 worlds, and you go through the different realms, and you go through a certain rhythm. And the rhythm is an ancient one, which is we mix and scrape through the tree of life. And obviously, people had really deep release when they were making the medicine, and I kept a lot of it, and a lot of them I put in adding some cannabinoids, and we called it awakening. And to be honest, I tried it a few times, but that wasn't my direction. I knew a lot of people that tried it, and just recently I heard that it subtly over time was changing people's lives. So in the awakening, there was alchemical moldavite. Now, moldavite is one of the only substances on Earth that we know that doesn't come from the Earth. It comes from some star system crashing on Earth and existing in what's now, I think, the Czech Republic, Bulgaria, and that place. And we would grind it up, go through literally a week's time of mixing and meditating and unfolding the moldavite. And when I made that medicine, or I led the group in making the medicine, my idea was to expand people's consciousness beyond their everyday life. Because moldavite is not from this earth. It's not from this planet. That it would open up the spaces. Now I'm thinking about to use it again into a brand new medicine. One of them is we talked about last week about coming up with a brand new one. How do we survive, not only survive but prosper, not only grow intellectually but grow spiritually? How do we become more compassionate? How are we able to be present when things are wonderful or when things are not wonderful, and stay true to who we are? And it occurred to me that people need to experience something that's beyond our everyday worth. Not only our worth, but also our ability to connect with. And that's moldavite. When way back in the 1990s, when we worked with moldavite up at Big Sur, one of the effects, which was I had no idea was going to happen, is we found everything funny. So the insight of that was by finding everything funny, we were able to let go of things we were holding on to. And if we want to grow beyond the suffering of what humanity's having right now, we have to be not only forgive ourselves and forgive the world, but we have to stop taking ourselves so rigidly serious as we're doing. And that's awakening. And I found out more and more people are taking the awakening, and the effects were not always instantaneously, but over time, they felt that their experience of the world around them and the experience of the relationships they were having around them, the experience how they were relating to non-human species. And I look back on it, my love for elephants came about around the same time when I was working with Moldavite. That we're understanding that intelligence, there's multiple levels of intelligence, not just human intelligence. And that we need to connect if we want to heal and become whole. And that was Moldavite. When the virus broke out, I realized that we're in big trouble if this virus is as serious as what we thought it would be. And I'm aware that a lot of people are saying it's not that serious, but to me, when you have hundreds of thousands of people dying and when the worst effect happens years later, and people are making claims and making businesses from it, that we need to evolve with it. That the virus is pure information. Having pure information, we begin to fathom it inside ourselves. The whole universe is inside ourselves. The whole universe came down to this earth and fell into this earth carrying the secrets, not only the secrets, but the secrets within the secrets. And our consciousness was expanding. So viral defense, we took the 5 or 6 most potent herbal remedies that we're aware of that exist on this planet from all over the world, and life brought us miracles, and that we were able to get a hold of these, because most of them was almost impossible to get, whether they were from China, from Canada, from the US, from Native Americans, that these secrets were going to make us into a more expansive species and make us have the ability to connect with each other and with other species from this planet. And then right now I'm working on a new one. I don't know how that came. That came about, I think, last week or the week before, and I'm about 50 to 60% finished, which is longevity. And when we think about it, we want to have long lives, and we want to be able to share the long life. And if we have a long life, we'll become more potent, more loving, more forgiving, and more expansive. And we can help other humans and other species to heal from all the wounds and the selfish damage that took place. So the longevity will expand our lifetime. So if you're expanding your lifetime and are able to outgrow this epidemic and become something more potent than you've ever thought you're capable of being, you're not going to get sick and die from the epidemic. You're going to take the virus into a place that we've never been and other species have never been, and we're going to learn things that we never even supposed existed. We're going to learn things that not just from this planet, not just from this Milky Way, and maybe not from this universe, that everything is touching everything. And everything has the potential within itself, especially within each one of us, to create new universes and new realities, and to heal the wounds that we've suffered from identifying with things that are not from us, but come from our own selfishness and separation. And so we have glia, and we've also made offshoots with the endocannabinoid system. We made offshoots for sleep, digestive problems, anxiety, all the things that people suffer from every time, and making it into an expansive, sensational reality where the limitations that we assume we have dissipate and everything opens up. And people I know that have experienced that, no matter what's going on around them, things are happening in their life where other things are falling apart because they're tuning in to not only a higher purpose, but their own purpose. And the highest purpose is your own purpose. And if we each do that for those that are around us, that will grow. And the fear of getting sick and dying becomes minuscule. And no matter what illness we get, we can use that for not only growth, but depth. The true depth overrides all death. And what is death? Death is an attempt to try it all over again.
I just want to ask, is there such a thing as collective purpose? You know, we talk a lot about individual purpose, your own purpose, self-expression. As a species, as a human race, do we have a collective purpose here?
I think we do, but we also have to be careful that we don't create a false collective purpose and become arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced that we're the highest species on this planet.
What would be your conviction then? What would be the highest species on this planet?
I don't know about the highest, but I've seen amazing things from species like dolphin, the wolf. I mean, they're predators, but they're also part of weeding. All healing is weeding. And they weed out, and the environment gets bad when they weed out what can't survive in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened up at Yellowstone. The environment came back when the wolves came back.
Mm-hmm. Because they brought back the balance.
Yeah, they brought back the rivers started coming, the trees started growing.
So wolves know where to go and what to do when the nature gets out of balance. The other question that we get a lot from patients is, they love your formula too, and they love viral defense. And they ask over and over again, when do I take what? And is it okay to take them both together?
Well, absolutely, you can take them both together. And viral defense. I personally take viral fence a minimum of twice a day. Most days I take 3, especially if I feel like I'm getting weaker.
So when do people know that it's a good idea for you to take both Formula 2 and Viral Defense, and when it's enough just one, or switch in between? How?
If you feel in excellent health and you want to stay in health, right now with the infections going on, I would do the viral defense. Viral defense is much stronger than Formula 2, but Formula 2 will prevent you from having an immune breakdown. It will prevent you from getting a serious cold. It'll prevent you from evolving into a chronic disease. People don't realize that most of the chronic diseases, the autoimmune diseases, only came about after World War II.
Is that coinciding with the white flour and sugar?
No, that was around before that. That started. That's an interesting story because it was called rich man's disease. So the flour and sugar, only rich people could afford it. So these arthritis and chronic disease were rich people, and poor people would suffer from it. And there was a scientific researcher in Massachusetts General Hospital that started researching back in 1850 through 1865 through the Civil War. And he found only 3 in 15 years of diabetes in the hospital records. And then when they started making synthetic sugar, it started exploding. And when sugar became cheap, people started getting chronic diseases. Another word for sugar is inflammation. So if you're of good health and you work in the fields and you have a farm and you have a fruit pie for on a holiday or on Sunday, you're going to burn it off. But if you're sitting in front of a computer
all day long,
but you're also sitting in front of people that are constantly expecting something from you. You have to produce. You're not going to burn it off. You're sending a message to your system to store it.
So the only way to burn your sugar, if you choose to eat sugar, is to exercise.
Exercise and active meditation.
Active meditation. So here you go. If you're having a slice of pie during the summer season, or sugary drink, active meditation or exercise is the only way. Otherwise, it goes straight into your fat cells, being stored very carefully, and it's very hard to lose it, even if you try.
But it also it means that your consciousness has changed. You know, sugar. Without sugar, we don't die. We die. We don't live.
Can you talk about, different kinds of sugar? Because I heard people say all the carbs are sugar. All the fruit is sugar. All the, they demonize the fruit, that we should not be eating fruit because it converts into sugar. And again, it's hard in our system. Do you agree with that all sugar is bad, or there is some sugar that is good?
If you didn't have sugar, you would die. All our energy comes from sugar. ATP is sugar. Adrenal phosphate. All our energy comes from sugar. We've used technology to have massive amounts of sugar.
Even bread has sugar these days. Every single, no matter where you
All
look.
carbs convert to sugar. And if you're trying to heal, stay away from sugar for a period of time. But you can't go on indefinitely without sugar. We need sugar.
What is a good time to stay off sugar? Let's say if somebody wants to go through a healing period and they want to get on this, sometimes it's called Candida diet, where you don't consume any carbs, any sugar, it's only certain types of green leafy vegetables and protein. What is the healthy amount that one can go for?
21 to 28 days. And then you take a break and then you go back to it.
So this is essentially keto diet. That's the keto diet where it's a
Yeah,
high
keto
fat.
diet is high fat.
But it's high protein diet.
No, but also complex carbs, vegetables, and they have all the nutrients. One of the mysteries is, why do people get well on all the diets? That's a mystery. People argue to death that this is a better diet. Most of the diets are healthier than what people were eating before. And for a while you're eating something healthier than you before, your body begins to throw off what's unhealthy. So you get people that go on paleo diets and you get people that go on vegan diets.
And they suddenly have these miraculous healings.
Look at football players. How many of them have become vegan? They've extended their careers 2, 3, 4 years. They have violent professions. And what about the people that eat high paleo, high amounts of meat? Their energy goes up, they lose weight, and they're faster. But those are for training purposes. And
so yeah, so you were we stopped at longevity, speaking diets and longevity. So the medicine that you are in process of designing right now, what is your ultimate goal? Because you shared awakening is to stretch your consciousness beyond this planetary existence, right? Glia is to clear your brain, clear your head, give you that, neurocognitive clarity. What is the ultimate goal for longevity formula?
the ultimate is longer telomeres, which are ends of chromosomes. They lengthen, you become more resilient. The more resilient you become, the more you can adapt to increased demand.
So when you say somebody becomes more resilient, what does it look like from the physiological body perspective? What becomes better in your body? Is it liver? Is it lungs? Is it heart? How do we optimize our health?
Our health is being efficient in being who we are. The more efficient we are, the less energy we're spending on survival, the less energy we're spending on looking to outdo what we've done before, but we're choosing things that not only help us, but help others, and not only help our families, but help our parents and our relatives. How do we respond to destructive stress? How do we, that's resilience.
People are asking, is dark chocolate bad sugar?
No, the sugar's not bad. That's another myth. It's excess sugar, and it's chemicals that are the big problem. Actually, a little bit of dark chocolate is probably healthy for most people.
There have been a lot of studies done that dark chocolate is actually good, good for your heart, and
especially if it's 89% or 85%.
because it's bitter, right? I know you're a fan of bitters, and chocolate is one of the bitters. If it's sugar free,
we don't survive without bitters. Now we have bitter receptors everywhere in our body. And that's one of the ways we deliver medicine, is through the bitter receptors. So the dark chocolate has and flavonoids that protect us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking about a great deal of sugar. We're talking about a little piece
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy. One of the things we've lost, at least in the U.S., I mean, I remember when I traveled around the world and I was in remote areas and I'd go to people's houses and stay with people's houses, people would eat very little of cakes and sugar. I watched it change. In India, I watched it change right before my eyes. When I first went to India, there was just a tiny bit of cake and some tea, and then all of a sudden I came back about 5, 6 years later, and everybody, it was massive amounts of sugar people were eating.
So it's not really what we eat, but the quantities that we eat
And how we eat it.
and how we eat it.
How
Right.
slow do we eat it?
Yeah.
Remember, all nutrients are information. So if you just swallow it and say, oh, this tastes good, I'm going to have more, you're going to store it.
Mm-hmm.
Because your digestive system and your brain and your nervous system and your the permeability you have in your GI tract and in your lungs and in your brain, you have to, it will be told to store it unless you've trained yourself what you're going to use it for. So if you were sitting with your 2 kids and your husband and we're eating something sweet and you've all worked hard and everybody's celebrating, that's going to become dynamic information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember one of the most difficult things I've ever had in my life as a child was hiding in the closet because my mother would chase me around wanting to give me a glass of milk and a German chocolate piece of cake, and I didn't have a sweet tooth. And literally, I would hide. So obviously, it wasn't something good for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had a little piece with my Uncle Robert, just the ability to sit with such a wise man who was teaching me all the secrets of how to have a productive, important life and truly cared about me, I would just need a little piece of cookie. I'm talking about as a child.
Mm-hmm. Today's children, they addicted to sugar.
Yes.
They crave sugar. Every single child, even those schools.
Is it sugar or is it the chemicals in the sugar?
Yeah.
Well, it's the chemicals.
That's true. Because to process that sugar, it takes a lot of processing. And the way to process and granulate and do all these things.
We hijack the brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for your participation and for your questions. Andrea Fono also commented that we are not the highest species on the planet. So we have.
Andrea, who do you think is the highest species?
We'll wait for Andrea to reply here, but yeah. So there, it's and I think that's what makes you special, Dr. Cohen. That you truly have a lot of hands-on experience with people, helping people, and you are the alchemist, the ultimate healer and alchemist, where you can design your own formulas and have this understanding of spirituality, physical body needs, mental, emotional, and that all converges. She's saying dogs.
Dogs?
Canine, right? Wolves.
Well, wolves are not dogs. That's always people made that mistake.
They're not the
Not from the
descendants
same
of
species.
no.
No, the wolves that gave us the canines died out a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is a different species.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in Turkey, I was on a boat, a trailer. I got a ride on a trailer going from Rhodes to Izmir in Turkey, and I was traveling down the coast, going to a small town was going to go to a remote village. I was only 18 at the time, and the bus driver, my Turkish was minimal. I had about 800 words, and he told me if you want to walk on the road to get to the village, it's going to take you 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go through the woods, there's a pathway. It'll take you 20 minutes, but there's wolf packs in the woods. And so I said, no, I'll go through the woods, because we didn't have those type of suitcases that you pushed them that had rollers, so you had to carry them. I had 2 suitcases. A lot of them was stuff some antiquities that I bought in a remote area. And so I went through the woods, and there was a pack of wolves. And I go, oh my God, this is real. And so I sat down, and the wolves came up to me and they sniffed my hands. And I immediately felt totally safe. They circled around me. I didn't feel like they were going to attack me, and they didn't. And I continued walking, and I got to this village, and I took this villager was waiting for me there. I was already running late. Took me by mule to the side of the mountains to the village. So I got an experience with the wolves, and then I got experience with a place that had no electricity, and you're walking on the side of a mountain, not on top of a mountain. And that was one of the great moments in my life. And I felt that deep connection with the wolf.
Andre also added that cats, birds, lots of them are dolphins, killer whales. So essentially, what Andre is telling that animal kingdom has higher consciousness than humanity. In a way, in some ways.
In a lot of ways. Some of the most profound heals are the dolphins. Dolphins are able to heal tumors sometimes.
Yeah.
They sniff the tumor.
Yeah.
We're talking about the dogs. The dogs, usually on cancer, are about 98% accurate. The best doctors are about 60-something% accurate. They can smell it.
Yeah. All right. If you guys...
Any questions?
I think we'll be wrapping up tonight's session. Thank you guys, as usual, for your support. We are here, and as I said, we are very excited
We'll do the meditation.
Yeah, we'll do the meditation. But before we go into meditation, just as a reminder that we are opening up for your visits, and of course, virtual visits are full on with no precautions. And we do recommend those who don't want to do body work and just want updates on their treatment plans to schedule virtual visits. I think that's just safer for now until we are here for later guidelines. But enjoy the meditation, and thank you for your participation as usual. We will be continuing lectures through the end of June, and we will make a decision at the end of June whether we're going to take a break for the summer. So for now, enjoy the meditation.
Rose Torres said she knocked out the nasty flu.
Yeah.
I think that was Formula 2, right?
Yeah, that was Formula. I asked who used Formula 2, and some of you replied that you do use Formula 2 on a regular basis, which is...
It saved a lot of people's lives.
Yes, we
Really?
hear that over and over. People who used to get, especially people in older age, when you start frailing with your immune system, they said they used to get colds and flus every winter. And there's one particular woman I can think of, she said for 10 years she didn't have a single flu after she was been taking Formula 2. So it's a promising science and promising product, and hopefully Dr. Cohen will not stop here and develop more incredible products for our community and patients.
Okay, so let's all sit here and let's project non-earth energy which is awakening or Molavite, and realize that when we access this, we're entering worlds that are not just from this earth, but have very limited borders. And as long as we know who we are. Now, everybody listening here is from the world of planting and healing. Otherwise, you wouldn't have bothered to come here. And there's no borders except the borders of our mind. And all of us that have now come into the 21st century are aware that what we used to think as borders or limitations never existed in the first place. And our brain has no real limitations except what we accept as a limitation. So I want you to take a deep breath, and I want you to pick one at a time, but 3 colors of light. Remember, we are light beings, and each of the colors will resonate with who we are. So let's do the first one. Let the breath go to our toes. Let it ground us. Let's make a commitment to walk without shoes, especially in the summertime outdoors, and pick the first light. And I guarantee you'll pick the right one. So take a few moments, ground yourself, and allow you to anchor within the earth. Take a few moments and I'll join you shortly. Now notice the light tapping you on the vertex of your skull. And notice that light is flashing through your skull all the way down to your feet. Now pick the second color, and I'll join you shortly. Now notice how contained you are, but how open you are. That you're both closed and open. Notice how peaceful you are, but notice how protective you are. Notice the clarity that you're not misunderstood, that you're elegantly and totally safe. All your energy is undulating. And notice that multiple civilizations are, through their own subconscious, aware of the emanation coming from you. Keeping in mind that the journey back to self, the journey begins through the heart. There are 32 pathways through the heart. When going through the heart, notice the heart becomes the home, and the home becomes the heart. And there's no separation from who we are and who they are, what exists without us and what exists with us. Take a few moments. Notice all three colors. Let it emanate. Let your heart open up. And as the heart opens up, you become powerfully healthy. And you're very clear what's your next step. Take a few moments, and I'll join you shortly. Notice that your fingers have become antennas not only to the universe, but to all the verses. Feel blessed, safe, and guided. 10, 9, 8. Breathe into your belly, breathe into your chest. Remember, the breath contains the life force. 7, 6, 5, 4, stretch. 3, feel the gratitude. Feel the truth. Feel the trust. And feel the love. All of those are the structure of your current existence. 2, 1, stretched, and enjoy all the blessings of your life. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.